how can they help themselves in the task of developing their spiritual life in the midst of those tremendous activities? This is the first question. I think this is quite appropriate and relevant.
As far as I know, you do not come and join the training center all of a sudden. You are supposed to be in different centers for quite some time, and then you come to join the training center. So it is not that you are not familiar with the type of work that you have got to take up when you return to the centers, or either old centers or to new centers. So I don't know why you should be afraid of the hectic activity when you go back. Of course there will be a change. You are here away from such activity which you had been doing in your respective centers. Now this is only a period of preparation. You are given this opportunity so that you can be better equipped for doing whatever work is allotted to you and for shaping yourselves for your further monastic life. Now this period is a period of preparation only. Therefore, I don't see that you will be thrown into an environment which will be unfamiliar. Why should it be? I don't know. The environment that you are likely to face hereafter will be familiar already to you, and you are expected to adapt yourselves better because of your training. If the training does not help you that way, I do not know what the training is worth for. It must be giving you a sort of better preparation to do the work. So there is nothing to be afraid of. You be sure that you are going with better preparation. But no, I know there are practical difficulties. After getting used to this sort of environment here, when you go back you won't have the same environment just repeated there or just continued. No, it is not possible. If it were so, there would be no meaning in your coming here. So, I think you will be better equipped when you go back to face the situation and shoulder the responsibility that will be put on you. Training center means that you are trained not merely to do your work better, but to face reality also, to shape yourselves also, as I told you in the beginning, to adapt yourself better in your further spiritual progress. That is what is perhaps very important to remember. You are trained not merely as workers, more competent to do your work, but you are trained as would be monks Why would we? I should say you are monks, though not fully ordained yet. You are going along that path and give stress on that. But then our monastic life is somewhat different from what obtained in the old school of monasticism, as we still find in some of the old monasteries. Particularly in North India, we have come across so many monasteries. The inmates there have. Ours is somewhat different. There, in that old type of monasticism, the inmates, even now, they are mostly concerned with their own spiritual progress in the way they have been habituated to, in the sense that they study, they meditate. I mean not all, but those who are the best products of such monasticism. They study, they meditate. As far as possible, they keep away from society, and only some elderly monks do some sort of preaching. That is all. But here, Swamiji has taught us to shape our life in a different manner. Our monastic life is not merely that sort of keeping away from society mostly, but living in society, helping people around us in various ways, not merely by preaching to them, but by serving them in different fields, and at the same time remaining loyal to the ideal of sannyasa, which is self-realization. Both aspects are there, intertwined. We cannot separate the one from the other, and that is how Swamiji has put it, AmritaMoksha jagadhitayasa. Jagadhita, or doing good to the world, and liberation of the self, or realization of the self, they go together. One is not to be attended to the exclusion of the other. If we do that, we are not loyal to the ideal of Swami. So these two things go together. And doing good to the world also is in a wide sense. Doing good in every respect, not merely giving them giving people spiritual ideas, or what we say, preaching, not merely that, but helping people in every way by just finding food for the hungry, giving medicine to the diseased, giving education to those who need it, in this manner. In every respect, helping people. Now that is what Swamiji has given us as our ideal. We are not to choose from among them. Swamiji has put this before us, and individually as well as organizationally, we are committed to it. And now whatever you may be asked to do in your respective centers, we must be in some form or other of these things. So there is no fear, should not be any fear, that you will face a situation which will be unfamiliar to you. You must be familiar with the fields. Only thing is you should not As you think that you will remain secluded like this all along. It is not possible. You will have to be in the midst of other people, and you will have to keep your own ideal as pure as possible and devote yourselves to the whatever work you are allotted to do loyally, and also remaining true to your spiritual ideal. There will be no conflict between the two, your life of service and your life of spiritual culture or realization of the self. Swamiji has given these twin ideals for us, and we are sure that Swamiji has not given us something which is not practical or which will not be conducive to our spiritual growth. I need not dilate on this point. I take it for granted that you are already familiar with them because you had your life in the order for 2 or 3 years before joining the training center. So there will not be anything which will be new to you. You already know and you have already committed yourself to it. So there need not be any kind of hesitation or fear about what you are going to face. It is not like our boys passing university examinations and then they are faced with the reality with which they are not familiar, because they have to earn their livelihood, they have to behave as responsible citizens of the country. During their period of education, they were not so much familiar with them. They had secluded life. They were provided with everything they needed, and they might have thought that this will go on forever. No, that is not possible. So for your case also I should say the same thing. This kind of secluded existence is not possible to be continued forever, and not good also, because unless you face responsibility you don't grow. Unless you are midst of society, your character has not been tested. They have got to be tested, and that way only you can grow in strength also. You will have to face situations and come out successful that way, without being in any way, affected by the environment. You are to be masters of your environment. That is what is expected of all of us. Yes. এত করে বলে তোমার সময় হবে না। এত কটা অবধি আমার টাইম কটা অবধি? By nature I am a bit garrulous, you see. Excuse me for that. And particularly old people are like that. তুমি দেখে একটা একটা বলো, সবগুলো করো না, একটা আর একটা বলো, তাহলেই হয়ে যাবে। 9-10 একটু চলো। না না, সবটা না, তুমি একটা চুজ করে বলো। সবটা বলে তত Now these are all questions which are linked up with one another. It is very difficult to isolate them. As for instance, you get my reply to some of these questions already. Already I have told you, you have got to face reality. And that facing reality does not mean giving emphasis on one aspect or another, the reality as a whole. So, Swamiji wants you to grow through the various forms of yoga, jnana, bhakti, karma. All these are necessary. Whether you should give emphasis on one or other of these aspects, of course, the emphasis may be because of your own propensity, that is your own tendency towards a particular way of life. But that does not mean that the others have to be neglected or to be avoided. No, you cannot do that. Life is a complex thing, and our approach to life will have to be simultaneously through these various forms. What Swamiji perhaps intends is giving special emphasis to one or other of these things. And there also it is not always convenient for us to choose one or other of the aspects. Sometimes we are thrown into environments which we have got to face, and there may be some sort of hesitation on our part as to how to face it, whether we can follow the path of jnana or karma or bhakti. Now this is, as I told you, our life is such a complex one that we are not a follower of any of these paths in isolation. We have to satisfy our reasoning, we have to satisfy our emotion, we have to satisfy our cognitive tendency. All these have got to be satisfied and integrated. An integrated personality alone will be competent to face different circumstances. Unless we are integrated, it is not possible for us to face situations at all times. To remain secluded is not possible. Circumstances will be such that we have to exercise our mind through these different paths simultaneously. Only thing is, if our tendency is towards one of these, naturally our emphasis will go there. But that does not mean we shall not be careful about the other. Take for instance one thing. Once a disciple told Guru Maharaj that I want only pure devotion, nothing else. The idea is I don't want jnana, I want devotion. Then bhakti. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, how can you have devotion to something about which you have no knowledge? Devotion requires that you must know towards whom your devotion is flowing. You cannot be a devotee without simultaneously knowing to whom are you devoted. Now that is how Sri Ramakrishna, who had spoken so many times about pure devotion, he spoke like that. Because he understood that the disciple who raised this question did not fully understand him. He thought that devotion without knowledge is possible. No. Only when devotion reaches the maximum goal, the highest destination, one can remain indifferent about the other aspects. Not until that. Because when he has reached the destination, then automatically what is attained by knowledge has been gained by him. What is attained by means of karma also has been gained by him. So it does not matter which way you are proceeding. As an aspirant, you will have to combine these processes. Though it may be that because of your special tendency, you may give greater emphasis on one or other of these aspects. But then you should not just neglect others. They are all necessary for making your life integrated. You are not merely a bundle of emotions. You are a rational being. You are not merely a reasoning machine. You have got your emotions. And if your emotions are there, they must lead you to some type of activity or other. You cannot be a personality without having one or other of these aspects. All these must be there. Sri Ramakrishna was a personality who is a personality who represents all these in the highest sense. He is a devotee, he is a jnani, he is a bhakta, he is a karmin, all these. And as such, our ideal is like that. That is why Swamiji says that one cannot call himself a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna unless one has in him that sort of perfect combination of these different aspects. But knowing our weakness, knowing our incapacity, he can say that you follow one or other, one or two or all of these yogas. Now that is according to our capacity, but not that we can do with one or other of these aspects or these pursuits. It is not possible. We have got to follow all these. But emphasis may be given to one or other according to our tendency. But that does not mean we can neglect any of these. Swamiji says to be on the safe side, you try to combine all these as far as possible. A perfect character, as Swamiji says, unless one has all these developed, he has not been cast into the mold of Sri Ramakrishna. Of course, that is a very big thing, but we must aspire for that. And accordingly, we must shape ourselves so that in our humble way, we should try to just harmonize among these three aspects, jnana, karma and bhakti. All these are necessary. None should be excluded. Time no, not a kudio.
Mother says our belief is operator and you are his disciple and you are therefore operating. I can emphatically say that you are operating and you can believe you are operator. Now, if we are out and out operator, then we will become a sect. We will become a sect. If we say that we are operating a special state, then what is that special state? How do we differ from the operator bodies such as the followers of Sankara? In this connection, the conception between Avuna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman, as discussed by Shankaracharya.
Baba, Swamiji has described the attitude of the Sangha as non-sectarian sect. What is the meaning of non-sectarian sect? Sect means a group of people who believe in certain principles about spiritual life. That is what is meant by a sect. And what is sectarian? Sectarian means one who believes in a particular sect to the exclusion of all others. To the exclusion of all others. That is what Swamiji particularly warns us against. We should not be sectarian. That is, we should not have any kind of apathy or antipathy towards other sects than to which we belong. Do we belong to a sect? Yes, we do in a way. You can call it the Ramakrishna sect. Is it not narrowing our outlook? No. Because Sri Ramakrishna means the widest possible Catholicity. There is no narrowness in that ideal. Sri Ramakrishna was a Vaishnava with a Vaishnavite. He was a Shakta in the midst of Shaktas. He was a Vedantin in the midst of Vedantins. Everywhere he could feel one with the people, and the people could feel him as their own. That was possible because he had developed that sort of unlimited sympathy for everything, unlimited experience which could encompass the whole spiritual life of humanity. Now that is what Sri Ramakrishna stands for, and that is what theoretically we also stand for. Theoretically I say, because it is not given to all of us to have that experience to that extent. As Swamiji says, don't think that he will be all Ramakrishna. It is not possible, but we can have that as our goal. And that is what is meant by non-sectarian sect. Having sympathy for all. Without that, not merely tolerating all, but having sympathy for all, feeling in the same way, though we may not feel competent to walk the path of all sects. That's not possible. But it was possible for Sri Ramakrishna. He could do that. He could go to that extent. It is not possible for us, but we know that is the goal. Having sympathy, having understanding, having respect for every sect. That is what is meant by non-sectarian sect. Now, that does not mean that we are not a sect. We are a sect. Not with the narrowness that goes with a sect. No. That is the Catholicity of Sri Ramakrishna that saves us from being a sectarian. And that itself may be called a sect. The other day we have been discussing this point. Are we a religious minority? Now that very question just poses a problem. Are we really as narrow as that? Are we just having a particular dogma or belief to the exclusion of others, which goes with sectarianism. We are not that sort of sect. But as Swamiji has put it very beautifully, we are a non-sectarian sect. We are a sect insofar as we believe in the truth of all sects, the truth that God can be realized through infinite number of ways. That belief itself makes us just group together into a sect. But that has no sectarianism element associated with it. We don't have any kind of, any kind of antipathy towards anybody. We are in itself makes us just group together into a sect. But that has no sectarianism element associated with it. We don't have any kind of, any kind of antipathy towards anybody. We are in sympathy with everybody. We believe that Sri Ramakrishna could even have sympathy for, say, immoral ways of reaching God. Society will be filled with horror at such ideas, but Sri Ramakrishna felt sympathy even for them. They may be a depraved group of people, but then if you just see their motive is good, though their way is bad. So Sri Ramakrishna says that is a path which is for the scavengers to walk along, not for you people who are expected to be pure, to be holy. They are, as they say in that monk, holy devil Rasputin, he believed in various queer things, but then he perhaps had that faith, and I do not know whether he was holy or only devil, I do not know, but they call him holy devil. There may be that sort of holiness, but we do not want that for us. But then we can have sympathy for everybody. Society may not advocate that, and Guru Maharaj has strongly warned us against following that sort of path. But then he himself was not averse to it. He could go everywhere and remain pure, but we could not. So he warned us not to walk along that path. It was never meant for society as a whole, but for some special types of people. And Sri Ramakrishna did not deny the associated spiritual hankering that they have. They also walk along the path of God. But that path is meant only for those people whom the society will call dirty. So don't follow the dirty path, but have sympathy even for them. That is the idea. Now, so that is what makes us non-sectarian sect. I give you the worst example that way. You need not be that sort of worst example, need not be followed everywhere. There are people who are good people, good devotees. There are people who are following the path of knowledge. They are good people. Society will tolerate only such people to the extent that they have got a moral norm to follow. That is all. Society does not bother about the rest. We should not antagonize with the common run of people. That is all. But so far as God realization or hankering after God is concerned, that is not the preserved ideal of a particular group of people only. That may be everywhere. We do not know what is good for another. He has to find out for himself. Social justice is another thing. Social standard is another. They will judge from the point of view of the good of the society. But individually a man may be depraved, but at the same time he may have, spiritual hankering in his own way. We do not know. And we are not the judge for it. As Sri Ramakrishna did not judge them harshly. He had sympathy for the depraved people also, as he had sympathy for everybody. But that was possible for Sri Ramakrishna. We are not to follow everybody. We must have that pure standard of our own. But yet at the same time we should have a sort of sympathy for everybody. None should be excluded. There are grains of goodness in the lowest of the low. That should be remembered. No, I've got that. আরে আর এখন সাড়ে 9টা বেজে গেছে। এসেছি কটায়? সাড়ে 8টায়? কি বলো কোনটা? We are Advaitavadins, mother says. So I don't have the audacity to contradict mother. We are Advaitins in that sense, that we believe in the ultimate truth in Advaita. What is Advaita? Advaita means God alone is real and everything else unreal. The word God, don't be frightened by the word. If we use the word Brahman, that does not help us much. Same thing. Either use the word God or use the word Brahman, connotations will be different, that is all. Now, God alone is real and everything else unreal. That is what is meant by Advaita. Are we Advaitins? If we are, do we go for food every day? Do we go and have bath? I am not talking about do we go and meditate or worship. I do not say that. Whether we go for food every day. Yes, we go. We do. Is that food real? No. And we go for knowing full well that food is unreal, being Advaita. We go for that unreal. Boy. In this sense, even we go for meditation. Does that mean that it is real? Meditation or reasoning, study of the Vedas and all these. Go from, say, the lowest rung of the ladder to the highest and see which is not Dvaita. Where is Advaita then throughout these different rungs of the ladder? Everywhere it is Dvaita. But then how can we just climb that ladder and call ourselves Advaitins? Because we have got that idea that when we have gone beyond all the rungs of the ladder, we shall be in a position to realize that all these were unreal. So long as we are working, none is unreal. We cannot take a step on any of the rungs of the ladder without knowing that it will hold us. We put a step and then say it does not remain there, it disappears. Then where shall we go? We believe that it will hold us and go one step further and one step further. And then ultimately, when we have covered perhaps all the steps, after that may come a realization that all the steps were unreal. But they were very real in the process of our climbing. If they were not real, we would not have gone towards our idea. About the highest goal, the Vedas say, Tatra Veda Veda Bhavanti. When you reach that goal, the Vedas, the knowledge becomes ignorance. The knowledge, Veda means knowledge. The knowledge becomes ignorance. So in our most astute rational thinking is as unreal as a man in a dream. Isn't it? That is what is Advaita. But if we are Advaitins in our behavior, where shall we be? We shall be deprived of our daily food. We shall be deprived of all the amenities of life. We shall be deprived of all the ways of approach towards the reality. All the ways of approach. There will be no, as in the Mandukya Karika it is said, na nirodho na cha utpatti na bandho na cha sadhaka na mumukshu na vimukti tesha paramarthata. Do whatever you can with that sort of paramarthata. Can you do anything with that sort of paramarthata? Does that help you in any way? No. So you will have to take a stand somewhere and then proceed. So that is what is called Vyavaharika Sattva. Even the Vedas are Vyavaharika. Even the assertion that all is Brahman or I am Brahman, all that also is Vyavaharika because it is also within the Vedas. All knowledge that you can think of comes within that. It is very nice to talk of the ultimate reality. Have we got any idea of the ultimate reality? Can we think of the ultimate reality with our limited mind? That our mind is limited, there is no doubt about that, we can very well understand. With that limited mind, can we think of the unlimited? No. Can we know Brahman? No. Nobody says we can. Who are we after all? We do not know. If we just, as Sri Ramakrishna says, he removed the scales of an onion and then what remains? Theoretically there must be something remaining, but practically nothing. Why? Because you cannot describe it. So Brahman has been described in negative terms only. There is no positive statement about Brahman. Even the word is a misnomer. Shruti says it is ashabda. You cannot utter a word which will signify what is Brahman. So you try to eliminate all these, and then your elimination comes to a halt. there is nothing more to be eliminated, and that is Brahman. Now that Brahman cannot be described. That Brahman cannot be brought within the purview of your limited knowledge. And your knowledge means limited. First limited by your individuality, and then limited by its capacity to know things which are with characters, with attributes, without which you cannot think even. Negation does not give you a correct idea anywhere, it does not lead you anywhere. Only the superimpose, to speak philosophically, you negate the superimpositions. Suppose you have been able to do all that, then what afterwards remains? No mention is made about that, nothing can be said about that. That's why it's a Shantoya Marma. Shanta means free from all superimpositions. All the waves are still. When the waves are all still, then what about the ocean? It is what it is. We have no conception of that. When we have any conception of it, that means making it a concept. That means forming a mental picture of it. That means unreality. Just see. So it is nice to talk of Brahman and to say that we are Advaitins. We are. Because we believe, not from our knowledge. It does not mean denying food. It does not mean abstaining from worship. So what does it mean then? Having in mind a reality which transcends all limitations. Now we cannot go further than that. That has been described in various forms in the Vedas, and that description, right from the lowest to the highest, comes within the purview of, say, shall we call it unreality, to be very blunt? At least not the highest reality. That has to be remembered. That non-nirodho, nacha utpatti, na bandho, nacha sadhaka, na mumukshu, na vimukta ityesha paramarthata. That paramarthata is a sort of an article of faith. But to reach that state, one has to accept the position of this duality for the time being as a working process, without which you cannot reach there. In mathematics, people say there are theoretically 2 and 2 make 4, or say a share of water can be equally divided into half shares. You can never do that. Try your utmost, you will never be able to do that. It is impractical, it is theoretical. So theoretically we are Advaitins. Practically we are not in the field of Advaita yet, but that is a distant goal for us. But that goal is there. We do believe in that goal. And as such we are Advaitins. Not that we have realized the Advaita, not that we have discarded all the other paths or other forms of concepts, other expressions of reality. We have not discarded them. Our God is as much real as, say, our way of life that we have here. Ultimately, perhaps as we grow, our concepts also grow. And then gradually we shall reach a stage where our experience cannot be described further. That is what is called Advaita. Advaita does not mean even that one is monism. It does not even mean that. It is not even monism, because that also is an attribute. No attribute can be applied to that state. That is why it is called not dual. What is it if you describe, if you are asked? Then you say, no, this is the way to describe it. As you say, Anirvachaniya. What is Anirvachaniya? I said, that means our incapacity to describe it. According to some, Maya is Anirvachaniya. It cannot be described. Then, of course, it is not applicable in this sense. I said, Anirvachaniya, it cannot be described, means not that it is our incapacity, it is the nature of things. It is the correct statement in that sense. Brahman is Anirvachaniya in the sense, not in that sense. Brahman is Anirvachaniya means we cannot describe it. Brahman also is Anirvachaniya because we cannot describe it. Our description means our experience which we have in common with others. Now Brahman, experience of Brahman cannot be there in common with others because others will not be there. So how are you going to corroborate it? There is no way. You completely annihilate yourself as it were, like that salt doll, losing its individuality in the ocean. Then what remains? Who can say? Nobody can. So our faith in that Advaita is there, and Mother has very aptly called us Advaitins. But at the same time we are not Advaitin of the type who will speak in a derogatory manner about the other ways, other approaches. Because we cannot do that consistently, being Advaitin and knowing that Advaita is beyond description, and our life is in a field where everything is limited, including our individuality. So we are not Advaitin of that type, which will simply say that we are superior to others. Not that way. It has been said in the Mandika Karika that Swasiddhanta Vyavasthasu Nishchita Dvaitino Dridam Parasparam Viruddhyante Tvairayana Viruddhate. Though the dualists, they are confirmed in their faith, in their particular dogma, particular belief, and so they quarrel among themselves. But we do not differ with them in the sense, we do not antagonize them in the sense that we are on a superior level. So they are like children fighting among themselves. Their fight, we don't have fight with anybody. Superior view of oneself. We have got to be very careful about that. Let us be more modest and say that we are also children thinking that Advaita can be realized.
Sri Ram